So listen, I'm grateful to be here today. I have some great guests. I'm Pastor Dozier with my wife. You guys don't know that her name is the Honorable Altina Dozier. I'm here with some great friends. I'm really I don't get shook up much. I feel a little shake up. If a tear comes out in any of these moments, it's going to be a first because I'm excited for a lot of reasons. I know you guys are probably just excited. You probably don't stop because Pastor Dozier sitting with some white people. So I want you to know that, and this is real. This is serious to me. I don't know if I share this enough with how tough it is to have authentic friends that you don't have to question about them if you talk to them. That's a weird, and I know y'all don't understand it, but that's a church thing. Pray for pastors all over the world. That's a tough thing anyway. Because pastors walk, I think, is lonely. It's a lonely thing anyway. But to have some other cousins that may not look like me, skin-wise, is a good thing. So I want to introduce the Honorable on this side is Pastor Steve and Sarah Glover from Deep Creek Community Church down in Punta Gorda. Did I say that right? No. Punta Gorda. That's, my wife's from there. Right. Punta Gorda. And on this side is the Honorable, great Pastor Ryan and Courtney Sharp from River Hills Church of God in Christ right here in Tampa. Only white pastors that are friends with me, really. I'm going to just say it. I know some people, but I love them. So I thank God for these, and they're all white. So I'm just going to kick that, we're calling this segment, Kicking the Elephant Out the Room. Let's talk about it. They're white. They don't have a brother or aunt, I don't think, that's black. Nobody black? No? I just want to clear it up. People are like, well, no, I just want to say it. They're white. I'm black. I think my wife's black too. So listen, and I want to make sure everybody, so make sure you log on, share, text, what's the name? Invite, share, watch party, start all that because we're going to have some good conversation. I promise you, you're never going to hear a conversation like this. And I just pray, let me just say this right quick. My vision for this conversation, come on, there's no conversation that we're going to have that's going to fix all the problems. It's nothing we're going to do. But I believe it could be the seed of things that I think should be happening nationwide. I think there shouldn't be a city with pastors in it that are multicultural, that are not talking we're waiting. I feel like we're waiting on everybody else to do something. Everybody's making statements, but nobody's having conversations. So I'm old school. I want us to pray first. Is that okay? I want to pray. Father God, we thank you for this time we have together. God, we ask you now, God, to do what only you can do. Touch our minds, our speech, our clarity. So ultimately, God, that you might get the glory and you might get the praise out of this conversation. And ultimately, God, that somewhere along the line, someone might see something different in this conversation, that only you, Christ, can fill that void, that love, and that life. Help us now, God, help this country as we go forth in this conversation. In Jesus' name we all pray. Amen. Amen. So, again, like I said, my vision for all of this, and I want to make sure I say this. We will be trying to take questions, but I already had questions from some of you guys, so I'm going to try to answer that. If not, I pray that we can maybe do this at another time, and we can kind of work it out. Because I know how people be like, oh, I want to talk to them again. So, and I talk fast. If this is your first time listening to Pastor Dozier, I stay on 0 to 60, try to play it back and slow it down. I'm asking for that feature for live now because I think, and I don't know how to stop it. You know what I mean? So here's the point. There's a few things I want to make sure we tackle is racism, religion, recognition, and our responsibility in it. So without further ado, I'm going to start with the guys. Their pastors here. I'm so glad I got their wives with me. Y'all don't even know how big this is. Yeah. Because before we get into the racism thing, do y'all think, let me stop. Okay, so let me first do this. I'm going to let Pastor Steve talk, Pastor Steve Glover. He can say, he can preach, say he can do his own thing. Then I'm going to go to the other man. And I'm not doing this because I'm masculine, or what they call it, when you're a male. I'm not a male chauvinist. Right. I'm just going the men first. Okay. I'm not a male chauvinist. So don't say that. Or don't text that or whatever. Just don't get that thought in your mind. Okay. Steve, I'm gonna go with Ryan, and then I'll switch back up. Sarah, then Courtney, then my wife will clean it up.
All right. So the guys go first because we saved the best for last.
Ah, that's good. Well, you know how to get me out of it.
No doubt. Honestly, that's the truth, and I bet every guy up here will agree that. We're one flesh. We are. You can't pastor alone. You can be single, but any success that I have, first I attribute to God. Secondly, it is the stability of a great wife, and I know you're blessed with that as well, and I'm sure you are as well. I just want to first of all say to everybody watching today that when Brian asked me about coming and speaking with him about some of the tense issues, it scared me to death.
Right.
As a white man, we're going to kick the elephant out of the room from the get-go.
Right.
So many words are taken today and misconstrued that the first thing I thought of is if I say anything to misrepresent Jesus, secondly, to misrepresent my dear friends that are sitting right there, that will break my heart. So I am honored that you would ask us. I don't feel worthy of this, but because what you've done for me, Brian and Tina, and I don't even like, when we first introduced you at our church, I said, here's my friend who happens to be black, because we talk straight, and that trust level is needed today.
Right. And
you had a little bit of criticism that I introduced you that way.
Right.
And it is those type of words that I want to be very careful today that I don't in any way hurt what God is doing through you guys.
Yeah, but we're good. And whoever's like that, we don't like you. We don't like you already.
All right. So
whoever you like. Okay.
I want to say that this relationship started many years ago when we were still just a struggling church plant. And Brian is a dear friend, and Tina has become that friend as well, that we trust him. And right after the 2016 election for us at DC3, that's short for what we call Deep Creek Community Church, we had people, both white and black, leaving our church because of tensions in the election.
Right.
And Brian and I began to talk about why that tension existed, and this man of God helped me see, as a white man, better through the eyes of a person of color that has changed my life. And Dozier, I am forever in your debt. Tina, I thank you for supporting that relationship. And today, I invited you to come speak, and we sat there and talked about race relations.
Right.
And everything we look at, we don't agree
Right.
100% on everything.
Right.
But what we do agree on is that Jesus is the answer. And if we in some way can bring hope to the hopeless through Jesus Christ, which I believe and we all believe is the answer, and we can do that in some way today to plant seeds of hope, I'm all about that. So I would say today my goal is to, number one, show you Jesus. Second of all, to show you that relationships and conversations are going to be the key to getting through this and coming out on the other side,
I agree.
a better country, and I believe God's doing something. And I want to listen to what God is doing through talking and having conversations like this, as you have helped us do at our church already in our relationship. So thank you for letting me be here today. I'm excited about the conversation.
Pastor Steve Glover. All right. Ryan.
Yeah, we are so honored to be here today. We met you guys about a year ago at your convention, and just really felt a connection with you guys. Kim brought it back here to Tampa, and we've continued to meet. And I'm so excited about having this conversation. Everything that's going on, from Corona to George Floyd, and now even beyond, man, it's like so many crazy things are happening. The chaos is happening. But I have this weird sense of excitement and expectation, because I'm a firm believer in Romans 8, that God works all things together for the good. Right. And so even in times of tragedy, in times of chaos, God is going to work it out for the good. And man, this whole season, the conversations I've been having is it's different this time, and it's different because we're talking about it, because we're having these conversations. And I also believe the first step toward reconciliation and change is acknowledgement and having these types of conversation.
Preaching good, you're preaching good, Ryan.
Yeah, and man, our relationship doesn't go back as far as yours and Pastor there, but man, just I'm excited to see us having this conversation. I'm glad that white people and black people can come together and acknowledge the elephant in the room, and I don't want to have to feel like I'm walking on eggshells with every word that I say, because God knows my heart, you know my heart. I hope you out there learn my heart, and we're honored to pastor River Hills Church. It is like a crazy multicultural congregation, and the culture has grown over the last couple of years, and it's just been so tremendous, and so I'm just excited to be here, man.
Me too. I love it. The Honorable Sarah Glover now.
I'm with Steve. I was really a little concerned about having this conversation, but as I just spent some time with the Lord, I was reminded of, I think it's Acts 3, where a beggar was sitting there with Peter and John and saying, give me some silver and gold. He was hoping for that, and they said, we don't have silver and gold, but what I have is I can give you Jesus. And because I don't feel like I bring a lot to the table with this conversation except for Jesus.
Right.
And so a lot of people don't necessarily want to hear that, but I know that is the answer. I know that He is the answer, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes as a Christ follower to see His kingdom come, His will be done. And if that requires me getting in uncomfortable situations, then I want to.
And I hope I can make it not so uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah. And Brian was he said he would.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna have it. I want to tell you again, if you're on here today to try to nitpick, if you know me, I'm gonna probably say something. I don't have a script, so I'm probably gonna say something that's gonna make somebody scratch their head. But if you don't know me, then just log off and we'll see you. Catch me in a week or two. And I'll do better next time. All right, here we go. The Honorable Courtney Sharp.
Very glad to be here. I am in agreement with Ryan. These are crazy times, but it's sad that we have had to get to this point, and another man's life has had to be lost in this tragic way. But I believe that, like you said, it's time. It's time. All these things have led up to this point where, we're finally really ready to talk about what is happening. Really hit these issues hard. And I agree with you as well. Jesus is the answer to all these things. I mean, we say we have Jesus in our heart, and as Christians, we have to show that through the way we love our brothers and sisters, no matter what color skin they're in, no matter what. That's what it just boils down to. We say at our church all the time, love God and love people. And if we're not doing those two things, then what are we doing? But Yeah, I'm really glad to be here with you guys, and I think it's important. I was thinking last night, what are we going to talk about? And I was nervous. I was nervous too. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? I don't want to hurt anybody more than anything. I don't ever want to say anything to hurt anybody, but I'm glad that you're talking about the hard questions and the hard topics.
Right.
And if we can't talk about it amongst family, then who can we talk about it with? And I'm glad to be here with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. And my wife now, she's not gonna sing today,
Oh.
but whatever.
You can do no fear or hello fear.
Hello.
No, but I am happy that y'all are here. I'm a big believer in family, no matter what color you are. I mean, I'm from a small country town, but I've always, with this conversation, I always felt like y'all think y'all was intimidated. I'm a little nervous because I don't want to, I have this expectation of saying the right thing for, the people, but it's like you guys said, there's no color in Christ. So I'm grateful that you guys took the opportunity to say, hey, we'll talk about it, because the Bible says that there's a point in time for everything, and like you guys said, it is
Appointed time.
And
Preaching.
it is the point in time that we talk about it. So I'm grateful to you guys.
I love that. Listen, so now that you know who everybody is, let me just cut to the chase. I'm a chase guy. So it's difficult to even talk about one specific issue, because the more I started getting, discussing the George Floyd, I felt like I had not got over the Ahmaud Arbery. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then as a pastor, as a leader, I started feeling really bad because nobody, and I'm thanking God for y'all women here, nobody's talking about the Breonna Taylor. This girl's just home.
Yeah.
And then here's the other thing. These are things that just happen to be captured on video. You know what I mean? Like, but then I felt a sense of, and I'm not even going to go into that word. So if you think I'm going to go down that road, I'm not. I think about this, 800,000, and I'm a statistic guy. Everybody knows me, I study. I'm a numbers guy, because I think it's difficult to talk to people when you don't have numbers. That's just me. 800,000 police. And we got a country now that almost seems like we're saying we hate the police. And that's a little nuts for me, because I have a daughter today. I haven't always been there. I grew up in a hood where everybody hated police, but it just changed. And I'm saying, man, if something happens to my kid, I want you to call the police and hang up and call back, talk to someone else, and hang up and call back one more time. We want that many police to come, because that's how much I care about a system to a certain extent. So I think it's great to help people that are hurting, and I'm going to get into some of that later. So here's my biggest thing, and I want to bring this elephant out of the room. Being black, unfortunately, and I'm just going to put this out there, nobody likes it, like I said, log off, or we'll catch you later. But I know what it feels like when someone of my skin complexion does crime. About a few years ago, there was a guy in Seminole, remember he was shooting, there was this random guy shooting everybody in Tampa, and I remember feeling like I had to say something to say, like, we're not like that, or there's a black guy, most people, when they think about someone break into their home, sometimes they imagine a guy that's black. So what I'm saying is, I know what it feels like when things happen and you feel this sense of, I'm sorry for people that look like me. So I want to talk about that. Like I've been here, and I've just been real. I've been seeing a lot of white people. And let me say this first. Both of their ministries, I can't talk about everybody's ministry, both of their ministries have active black people in it. I'm not talking about just people sitting in the back. I'm talking about people singing and people playing and people doing other stuff. I just saw a new guy. You got a new guy. I'm sorry, but a new black guy. And I haven't seen. That was playing. Well, here's my point. So this is not about if I think they look at us different or black. This is not even about that. So I want to be talking to them if I had any thought in my mind. They're not that church. So I'm not going to talk about every other church and every, I need to say that. You know what I mean? They're black power. They probably have a Malcolm X t-shirt at home. I don't know. So I'm just saying they're not that people. You know what I'm saying? But here's my point. Do you guys feel that sense of, you know what I mean? Like you feel like you have to say you're sorry. You know what I mean? Like it's this part that makes you feel like you gotta apologize and you're not even guilty of it. You know what I mean? But anybody can talk. And there's no, you know what I mean? It's just this weird feeling that I see white people have now. Like, hey, we're sorry. And I'm like, I know what that feels like though. This obligation. Anybody know what I mean? Sort of. Yeah. Talk. Yes.
I'll take that. Brian, before this, I think all of us can relate to this, Brian and myself, and all of us in ministry, that too often, every year or so it seems like, you see a notable minister fall.
Right.
Morality, financial fraud, and every time that happens, I go, there went a black eye to the kingdom. That just made my mission harder to reach unchurched and unplugged people and turn them into totally devoted followers of Jesus Christ. You just made it harder on me.
Right.
Recently, I have felt what you described more than ever before in my life, especially when I saw that police officer kneeling on George Floyd's neck. And I saw the video. I didn't want to watch it because I knew it wasn't going to be good. And I'm like, do you know how you just set race relations back so bad? Right? Do you know how all of these things done by people that look like me has just tarnished me on some level?
Right.
And it creates a tension in me that I do feel responsible.
Right.
And I think, now again, I believe that on some level, that's a good thing because now I need to talk to people, and I start with the people I have influence with, primarily my kids, and go, this is evil. I don't care what color you are, but I always tell them, you carry the name, right? You carry my name, Glover's name. If you do something bad, you're now tarnishing the name of Mimi and Pawpaw, of Nanny and Papa Joe, which are their grandparents, of all your aunts and uncles. And I think in our society today, we've kind of gotten away from that group responsibility, which I think is a healthy thing to go, dude, stop. What are you doing? Right? How can you be so stupid to do something like that? And so, I definitely now feel that pressure more than ever before, which I think helps me have empathy for what you've dealt with for a lifetime, right?
Anybody? Yes? Anybody? Nobody?
Yeah. And for me, there's a tension between the group responsibility. Like, I'll say to my son, look, you are sharp. We don't behave that way. And at the same time, there's this tension of there's personal responsibility.
Right.
So specifically with George Floyd, do the white people need to apologize on behalf of white people because he was white? Do police have to apologize on behalf of the police department because he was a police officer? And so, it's there. I don't know if there's a right answer to this. This is why we're here today, because it's so hard. But at some point, people got to take responsibility for their own actions. And I'm sure we'll talk about this. Get to a point later where I can discuss like the systemic issues that we're having. But for now, it's man. At some point, yes, we are part of a tribe. We're part of Christianity. You made a great point that when a minister has some sort of failure, that it puts a black eye on all of us. And so there is that tribal group responsibility that we're in. But man, I want to see us get to a point that above being Americans, above being Democrats or Republicans, or above anything else, that we are citizens of the kingdom, and that's a goal I think we need to work toward. We're not there yet, but So,
but ladies, y'all can just that feeling. I'm trying to I don't even know how to describe it because I felt it so many times as a preacher, as a black guy. It's just this, almost like I want to tell everyone, I'm sorry that you experienced whatever you experienced. And I'm talking about, you know what I mean?
I think what's neat about that, though, is that comes from, in my opinion, a place of love, mercy, compassion. It comes from the heart of God for us to say, I see the hurt that's there. I see the pain in somebody else's experience, and I can come alongside. I think it was you mentioned the Good Samaritan a couple days ago when we were talking about it, and that is a beautiful thing. Because I heard somebody speaking about this today when I was watching something in the scripture Micah 6:8, where it says, and everybody's been quoting this, seek justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. We like to focus on the seek justice, but the other two are so important to that, because if we seek justice without loving mercy and humbly walking with our God, then it turns into revenge. And revenge just creates another cycle of hate and evil. And when we bring alongside Jesus' mercy, God's mercy towards us in his kindness, so that's what I see when I hear you saying that, when I feel that myself.
Right.
I think it's a compassion that's created in us, a mercy that's in us, and so that we can
That's good preaching, Sarah. That's good preaching, Sarah. That's good stuff to me. That's good stuff. And so I don't want to take away from y'all. Y'all want to say anything about it?
I agree. I feel like when you're out and about now, that I just want to say, I love you. I'm for you. I'm not against you. When you're with us, or you're in our church, or you're here with me, you're in a safe place with me. Like I want people to know that they can feel safe around us, and I can't stand that feeling of, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not that way. You can trust me and know that I love you as my brother and sister.
Right. But you got something? My other question is, so here's the argument. The argument is, oh man, one side really says, well, the good thing that happened out of this was a bad thing. We're just talking about a response. The best thing happened out of it, at least, people are now finally, saying something. People are apologizing. People making statements. And I don't know. So here's my issue. If racism exists in the world, and I'm just asking this for everybody online, if racism exists in the world, and if that racism right now is pointed towards the direction of authority, systematic structures, stuff that, now people are finally saying, okay, this guy gets charged more than this guy because he's black, or these systematic structures, and because this guy's white, blah, 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 everybody's, every sports, everybody's saying, hey, we got to take a look at all of it. My question is racism in the church? I'm just, hey, I'm not talking about your churches. What we're doing now is taking a risk at speaking overall. Obviously, we're not in every state and every city, but how do we not say that racism isn't possibly in the church?
We would be hypocrites, because racism is a sin, humans sin, and humans are in churches. So, I think that's just a very simple thing.
So I agree. What about y'all? What'd you say?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been said that Sunday is the most segregated day of the week. And I say this way to our congregation. I don't want a white church, and I don't want a black church.
Right.
I want a kingdom church that's reflective of the community in which we've been placed. And we started out, and I feel like we had gained ground that we were all worshiping in the same room together. But it still needed to be advanced, because it was like when we said amen, everybody just kind of went in their cultural corners and fellowship with each other. And so we had to be, and this is what I think is important, you have to be intentional at offering opportunities to bring people together to the table, bring conversations together where you're not just standing and waving at a distance, but you're actually able to engage with them. So yeah, racism absolutely is 100%.
Right. Yeah, everybody agree with that sort of kind? So here's my issue. Here's my take on racism, and nobody's gonna like it, especially if you're, I don't say you're not gonna like it. I don't know if it's so much racism than it is preference. Here's my issue. So, I use this example all the time because I really feel this way. I really like seasoning on my food. Now, I'm not saying these guys are any different, because Ryan's a Popeye guy. These are chicken, hey, they're white and they love chicken too. What I'm saying though is that, y'all hear what I'm saying? Like, what I'm saying is, I don't know if it's, like, you can't take away from me that I still think sweet potato pie is great. Yep. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have a right to think, like, I hate zucchini. I hate stuff, and my wife loves it. And so we could joke about it and say, where did you get that from? white Punta Gorda area. You know, somebody white, somebody, black people don't eat zucchini, right? But you know what I'm saying? I'm saying it's not so much race, and I think sometimes we give the devil too much of something that's preference. You know what I mean? I would prefer a preacher with a little soul on him. I don't want to feel like I'm in school all the time. I think, that's a preference though.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that guy can't be black. You know what I'm saying? So I'm asking, do you think we give too much? Ladies, y'all can talk now. Yeah, y'all think we give too much to racism? And sometimes it's just preference. Like, I like this style. And that might be from where we grew up and maybe culturally, but it's not even I'm not anti-it. I feel like sometimes we feel like, well, if the white person goes over there, they don't like black. No, I don't know if that's it all the time. Am I tripping? Yeah, sort of. No.
I think a lot of it may be even routine.
Routine.
I go to this church because my mom went to this church and her mom went to this church. I don't think it's, as you get older, you can make your decisions, but some people just stick to that because church is just what, it's a habit to get into. It's not, sometimes it doesn't be about growth, it just be about where we went. And to be open is hard sometimes because you think that if you, like you said, if you go to this, or had decided I'm going to go to a white church, I switched out. You know what I mean? Or if I decide, if Hannah says, I'm coming over here, why? You know what I mean? So it's not, it gets into growth. I think it's vital that as people God, we grow. And if we don't grow, then we don't understand that it's no color in it. Right. There's no color in growth. You know what I mean? So I think that's maybe a start. Yeah.
Well, I think you've talked about the seasoning thing a lot in our relationship.
I
love that analogy. But again, if we look at Scripture, this is not new.
Right.
They had favoritism because I think the issue, and again, I'm going to step into the icy waters here of define. I think what you were trying to talk about, preference, racism, and we just had a conversation in our leadership circles this week, like a 4-hour conversation. First question we asked, because we have African Americans on our staff, we have Latinos on our staff, but the first question we ask is, are we a racist church? Because that's a question that needs to be asked. Then we ask the question, are we a prejudiced church? And what we determined as we put those definitions on the screen is prejudice exists everywhere. You see in Acts, the first dispute in the church was, well, these people are not getting fed first. They're getting pushed out. And so we created deacons to take care of prejudice.
Right.
First thing that's happening is preference, and the thing that James tells us is if you favor any person over another, it is sin. And so what we see, and I think Sarah and we're all saying it, is there's sin in the church. We have to call it out. And a lot of times I think that the thing that has baffled me as a person growing up in Alabama, and the whole testimony of how God has pulled me out of a prejudiced mindset with men like you and other kids that I've worked with, is the fact that why are we not talking about it more? And I thank God finally we're sitting with people going, it exists.
Right.
And what do you do when you find darkness?
Right.
You expose it to the light.
I like that.
And when you bring it to the light, Christ will take care of it. But we got to be willing to say, something ain't right here somewhere, but what is the right thing? Does it have to be a certain way? Does it have to be perfectly blended according to your demographics? But if people are ministered to and grown in a certain style of ministry, is just like Tina said, is there anything wrong with that?
Right.
I don't know. Those are great questions.
I didn't hear anything over there. This side.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think there's something to preference. I think it's easy to not just having to do with color, but I think it's easy to just be comfortable with people who are like you, who come from the same place, and you find comfort in that. And again, it doesn't have to be a black or a white thing. It could be where maybe you grew up in a neighborhood that had blacks, are you comfortable with that socioeconomic level? And so you get comfortable, and that's why I think it's important to be, and I'm going to say the word again, to be intentional. At exposing ourselves to people who don't look like, who don't think like, who don't have the same level of income, whether up or down, than us, and just expose ourselves to. And
so you lead into my next thing. I want to talk while we're on this kind of thing. So there's this normal now that everybody's speaking of called white privilege, right? Now, is it? So let me tell you why I have an issue with that a little bit. My wife fortunately had two parents that loved her and was raised. They stayed together 45 years. I mean, they only broke up. I don't say broke up. My wife's mother's a widow, and so I talk about her sometimes and things she was able to do in her life because I just felt like she was more privileged than me. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So now to be a guy that comes right out of the hood of St. Pete, right out of the, I know what it feels like to sit in my house as a kid and someone takes our AC out the window and I'm sitting a kid looking on the TV. Like I lived in that. I know what it feels like to live in a one-bedroom apartment with my mom until I was about 13. I slept in. So I'm saying I don't want you. So a lot of things I don't know if we're calling it. I want to give it justice. I know there's privileges. I just haven't been so aware of them, and so sometimes I have to ask. I know there's a difference. You know what I mean? But we all agree that there's white privilege everywhere. I don't know. I've only been black my whole life. You know what I mean? So I don't know I can talk about it systemically, like, hey, it seems like numbers, there's more of this, but I'm talking about numbers. I don't know if it's different. When I get pulled over, I'm a black guy got pulled over. I don't know the difference. You know what I mean? And I'm not in the car with, I'm just asking. So could that be possible? World, church, is it, I only been a black pastor too. You know what I mean? So I don't know. And I don't like always taking someone's take on something when I don't know it to be true. So yes, sort of kind of talks about it. Nobody? I know I just touched the subject. It wasn't on the script.
No, it's fine, but just like you've only been a black man, I've only been a white man, so I'm only accustomed to what my experiences have been, and that's why I think it's so critical in this season is to listen to the experience of others, and I have. I'm just going to share how my experiences growing up.
Right.
Whenever I heard from the way I was raised, the way I grew up, in the setting that I grew up in, whenever I heard about black people having run-ins with the police, you're only told of the gangbangers and yada yada yada, and then
right.
It wasn't until later in life that there are people that their skin is black, that they love God, they are good people, they weren't breaking the law other than perhaps speeding 10 miles over speed limit, and
right.
No possession of a weapon, no nothing, and
right.
getting pulled over and being harassed. Now we're talking about people that I know.
Right.
We're not talking about external people that I don't know. We're not talking about just what I see on the news. Now I'm talking about people that I know, that I've had experience with, that have literally opened my eyes to issues that I didn't even realize was a real issue. Yeah.
Right. You're right. Yeah, sort of kind of like that. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ruffle the feathers of some of my white friends probably now, but I think one of the things, God, as I wrestle with that term, white privilege, because words are very important.
Right.
You have to ask yourself a set of basic questions. Is it easier for a white person to fill in the blank? Absolutely.
Right.
Is it harder for Brian Dozier to
That's good.
fill in the...
That was a good one. That's good.
And if you answer yes to those questions, then there are privileges.
Yeah.
Just like sometimes if you're a Southerner and go Northern, you're going to have struggles, or you're Northern. I grew up in some stupid times, right? I'm the oldest on this stage. I have seen stupidity, right? And so I saw a phrase, I shared it with Sarah on the way over here, that it all comes from pride and ego. It's anti-Christ, right?
Right.
And this gentleman who was doing a commencement speech, and he was an African American man, football player, but 4 degrees. He said that my 3rd grade dropout daddy told me this. He said that, let's see if I can say this right. Ego is the anesthesia that removes the pain of stupidity. Let me say that again because I think it's worth this conversation. Ego is the anesthesia that removes the pain of stupidity.
Right.
And I believe for a lot of us, the first temptation when we hear these, well, your race is to, the ego comes up in us, our pride, and we want to defend our position. But we have to be careful that Satan doesn't use that to close our ears. And what we must do as followers of Christ, and again, he talked about this. It's not me. It's not original. He said our servant's towel must be bigger than our ego.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Our servant's towel. And I must,
You preaching, man.
if I have dear...
Did y'all hear what he just said? That is so good right there.
No, and I believe
Servant's
God let
towel.
me hear this for this
Right.
conversation because here's what I know. I want to stop short and I want to shrink the size of my towel. I want to be a partial servant
Right.
and listen just enough to justify my opinion.
Right.
When I should be shutting up my opinion and listening to those that are hurting.
Right.
Whatever the problem is.
Right, right.
That's what Christians do.
Right.
And right now, there's a whole race of people in color, because we're all the same race, but people who are darker skinned than me are struggling.
Yeah.
And if I don't take the time to listen to what they're feeling, that's on my ego, and nothing's ever going to get better.
Right. I agree. I agree. That's why the Bible tells us to be slow to speak, quick to hear. But and I need to say this because there's been a lot of tension even around this Black Lives Matter. Right. Obviously, you say Black Lives Matter, and someone's going to say all lives matter. Right.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's clear that hey, Black Lives Matter was never, I think, created to segregate it. I think it was more driven to say we know what other lives matter, and because of the issues, Black Lives Matter also, like in addition to. So the reason why I'm asking for this, the reason I want to talk about that for a second is because if there's systemic issues, now here's just my opinion. I just need a quick. To me, the issue is not in the police department. I talked to someone that was in our church one time, was in the military, and when they kill people, certain things happen. They go through this grief counseling and all this kind of stuff because of the experience. I'm saying, this is just me. I feel like you shouldn't be a police officer. Nobody's talking about statistics, but 22% of law enforcement is down on an average in every state. That means everybody talk about the guy had 18 infractions, right? But there's nobody replacing him.
Right.
Because there's no kids, none of the kid I know, nobody's graduating in high school or saying I want to go be a police officer.
Yeah.
Right? So you're stuck with what you have to a certain extent. So to me, this is just me. I think some of the answers got to be at least once a year. Sit down with every post. Hey, do you remember what we agreed? Like, you know what you gave an oath to? It's like a vow renewal. Something that says, let's just go back over this. Because guess what? You have been through a lot. You're picking up bodies. You're seeing things that the rest of the world are privileged to see. Yeah. So let's just go back over. Do you because you might need a break. You might need a vacation. I mean, I'm a pastor, and sometimes I wish somebody would tell me, "Hey, pastor, I call you guys, man. I'm pulling hair. It's tough. I don't have any money. What's going on with you? I'm trying to hear some hope from you because I'm literally ready to jump.
Yeah.
Right? But sometimes just hearing a different perspective, and I'm saying make them do it. That's just my take. So me, the answer is it's not. It's have a conversation with 800,000 police. Think about it.
Yeah.
That's a lot of cops.
Yeah.
And we're looking at. We're not even talking about 10%. 10% would be 80,000 cops bad. And if they are, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying, man, that's a lot. A lot of, and I'm going to get into something in a little, but everybody give me your take. What do you think? How do you fix it? What's some, how are we going to fix it? What's some suggestions we can to fix it? Besides the obvious, I think it's a spirit, okay?
Yeah.
You can't fight this spirit in the flesh.
Yeah.
That's just me, but if you had to be a politician or something, I don't know. Give me something. What do you think? Everybody give me something. Nobody gets away from this answer. Okay? Give me some kind of suggestion of what do we do? What I mean, to me, that's where we start. But go
In
ahead.
a perfect world, we would say all police need to be Christians. Yeah.
There you go. Hey.
But that's here or there. But I agree with you. Maybe we should stop at some point and say, hey, we need to refresh on why we're here or why we're in this position. No different from
Yeah.
a pastor or a teacher. Like everyone needs a refresh, but fix it. I don't know. I just think if you're that 2% that hates runs so deep. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like, do you fix it? Can you fix it? I'm not sure. You know what I mean? But because it's scary, but you can put your best face in front of anybody.
Yeah.
So even
Good.
if you're a captain, how do you know how somebody's really feeling? You know what I mean? Like your check is the same color. So fixing it, I don't know, Captain. Yeah.
All right, somebody else. Come on, give me something. Come on, just.
So what you're talking about in some way is like a sensitivity training, perhaps. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, I mean, or just
I don't
a
know
re-evaluation.
I don't know.
of something.
I mean, maybe it's part of the answer. I mean, I think, and as you just said, I mean, I think the real answer we're going to say is everybody needs Jesus.
Right.
I mean, obviously, but in this way, you know, I think it's going to take several things happening, and you know, because you're diving deeper into heart issues, and does some sort of refreshing or training fix a heart issue? I don't know. Maybe it exposes people. You know, is there a more in-depth way that, you know, and I know you just said that the police force is down 22%. But for new recruits, is there, you know, a different way that the psychology tests are
Right.
Yeah.
But you're talking more mind. You thinking more that's like that.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't.
All right, everybody, come on, ladies. I want everybody. Just-
I like what you were saying though about having accountability.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure not every police officer starts off maybe the way they ended when they retire
Right,
and how
right,
many years.
right.
You know, I'm sure
good.
they want to
Don't
make
start
the
out
world a
with
better place, be safe, but I can't imagine what they live through on a daily basis. I imagine that they become desensitized to
Stuff that we were
lives lost.
sensitive- right.
You know, they see people shot and killed or in
That's what I'm
wrecks.
saying. People picking up
all
bodies
these
every night. They
awful
gotta be
things
crazy.
that they go through, and you just become probably desensitized to that. But I think you're right. Like it's like, sit down. How you doing? You know,
Right,
what's
right,
going on
right.
up here? What are you feeling? I like the accountability that you
Yeah.
suggested.
I think that's good too. I mean, I don't have a real clear answer on this. This
Right,
is one of those
right.
I'm like,
I don't think nobody does.
yeah,
I mean, I just.
I haven't done a lot of research into it, to be honest,
Right.
and I don't really know. I think with everything when we try to go at something that is a heart issue with a law issue,
Oh,
you're
that's so
really
good.
you're
Trying to go, quote that, tweet that to somebody. Trying to go at a heart issue with a law issue.
Yeah.
That is so good.
Yeah, it really is. It's like that's why
That's good.
Jesus came. I was
Like,
thinking about this a
That's so
lot.
good. I'm like ready to drop the mic.
Yeah.
Sarah just dropped the mic on everybody.
Well,
Sarah, that was so good.
Oh, well, that was
so
Holy Spirit.
good.
That was not Sarah.
What do you guys say? That was
This is
good.
a tough one. You know, Sarah and I are a perfect married couple. We are the poster children for mercy. The fact that we are pastors, God has a sense of humor. There is hope in laughter.
Well, you know I know.
Because we are too strong. She should be a ram, right? We're both got the ram horn. Remember the old Mountain Dew
Yeah.
commercial?
Um,
We used to.
Yeah.
That's us. We have strong opinions, and we go through a study we call love and respect, right? It's a crazy cycle, right? We argue about the same things.
Right.
It may start as something different, but the core issue is the same thing. And without some form of love and respect that we both agree to give mutually, you just enter that crazy cycle. And my fear is that, you know, she basically said what my dad taught me years ago when I was so politically active, right? Changed the world, man, through elections and laws. And my good old country dad, pastor, just said, son, you know, you're not going to change this country through legislation and politicians. It's one heart at a time. And as Christians, I mean, you guys already said it. If we do not start addressing the heart issues,
Right.
when I watched the video of that man standing on that man's bed, it literally looked demonic to me. how does a man, white, black, yellow, plaid, whatever, how does a man do that? Knowing
Right,
that
right.
you are probably killing this guy.
Yeah.
How do you do that? And the more perplexing question to me is, the people around him carry no responsibility.
Right.
But those other 3 officers, to me, carry more responsibility because they're the ones that had the authority to pull that guy off.
Right.
And if they just pull him off and let that blood flow start coming, you know, this would be a whole different situation. Not that there are other things in there.
Right,
This
right,
just
right.
brought a lot of things to the top.
And there's so many issues with that. We can go down that road with that. Yes.
I think we are back to, I think what Ryan started off saying is this is an opportunity. I believe God has given us an opportunity to go, all right, there's some things that have been covered up, elephants in the room that need to be kicked out and talk about. And that is, for us as the church, we desperately need to wake up because we have the answer.
So
We have the answer for the world, and that's Jesus Christ.
2 things I want to talk about right quick, and I'm going to change the whole narrative for a second. First problem I have is, it seems like the narrative's changing to white man versus black man. It's like it's the narrative's changing from white man versus black man. Now that could be a bunch of things. It could be there are more male law enforcement officers and obviously more male criminals in the world, so it may not be that way. But it's taking later out. So I want to talk about something right quick, and I'm going to read these off. I want y'all to hear this. And this is an issue to me, and I want to hear your take on it. And I want y'all ladies to dive in this. So, 1 out of 3 women have experienced some form of physical and sexual violence by a man in their lifetime. On average, there are more than 25,000 phone calls placed to domestic violence hotlines nationwide. That's not 911. Please listen to this. On average, nearly 15 women per minute are physically abused by an old intimate partner in the United States. So that means in about a year, that's close to 9 million.
Wow.
Right? Listen, in Florida, as of June 1st, I know we got 125, I think 135,000 coronavirus deaths. But in Florida, as of June 1st, this year, 2020, there's 108,000 cases of domestic violence reported to the police. Now, how does this country, how does this church, how do we ignore that? Y'all hear what I'm saying? I'm not saying black lives don't matter. So anybody don't think I'm saying, man, in 6 months,
Yeah.
listen, y'all, listen, blow my mind. Listen, every 15 minutes, some woman in the United States is getting abused, and nobody talks about it.
Yeah. That's good.
Ladies, y'all help me. Cause I'm saying, it gotta be a bunch of women saying, I mean, I heard the Me Too movement came on for about a hot year, and it died. And I'm saying in the last 6 months, y'all, here in Florida, 108, reported cases of domestic violence. That's nuts to me. And I'm saying, we're sitting here talking about one issue. And we're not going crazy over somebody's mother, sister, daughter. And I'm saying, I don't know how to preach about everything else. And I'm talking as a country. I'm saying, I don't even hear, it's getting no news. Did y'all hear the statistics I just gave you? 9 million women a year.
That's crazy.
And we're just like, hey, sing or something. I'm tripping.
Yeah.
All right, ladies, help me out. Tell me, how does it feel to be in a world that's so masculine and nobody's talking about, I can't tell you how many ladies I talk to that's going through some level of abuse. We need to talk about verbal. We're talking about physical. 108 in Florida? 108,000. I'm sorry, ladies, talk to me. I'm sorry. That's why I need y'all here. I'm sorry, online family, share like this, but
We should get that upset. The girls are going to talk, but I'm glad you have that passion. That's a huge deal.
It is, and I think that's the key, is that there are so many things. And that break God's heart. And so obviously Black Lives Matter. That is an important part of this conversation, an important part of our specifically American history, an important part of history in general, that all lives matter to God, and that's why he sent his son Jesus. He sent his precious son Jesus, and so all of these issues, I think it was Martin Luther King said that injustice anywhere is injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And that just makes so much sense to me. And I think we as humans get so myopic on one thing, and we tend to follow the crowd, because that's what we do. We go where it's comfortable. Even though this is not a comfortable thing, this is what we're talking about right now. It needs to be talked about. But there are other things happening in the world too that break God's heart, that are just as much of a destroyer of identity. And that's really what this is all about. And Satan came from day one to destroy our identity, right? And to bring a division between us and God, because when we don't see God clearly, we can't see ourselves clearly. And so that's just another branch of that, is that men don't see women clearly, women don't see men clearly.
But
that's another issue.
I have a problem with it. So here's my issue. I'm a guy that totally believes John 4, the Bible says God is seeking true worshipers. He describes those true worshipers as people that worship in spirit and in truth. And I don't want to spiritualize everything. I don't want to be the guy that dies and do what my grandmother did, and I thank God for her. But she always said, God will make a way. Everything will be all right. Just pray about it. But I'm saying, Grandma, this is some stuff, because God met the woman at the well and faced her truth. She did have some issues, and she had some issues with men.
Yes, she did.
But thank God that he touched the truth to help her get to the spirit. You know what I'm saying? And so my issue is, I'm saying, man, these are true facts. You know what I mean? And to be a woman, I'm saying, ought to have a daughter in this world, knowing that we live in a country that don't even address it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. To me, I feel like we can spiritualize everything if we want to, but the facts are we live in the flesh, you know what I mean? And it's a problem. But I do believe it's a mind problem. If you feel like I'm going through this type of abuse and I can report it, but if it doesn't really, if you don't really have a clear conscience of your worth,
Mind stuff. Y'all already said it before.
it's just,
Heart, mind.
it's going to be, you're going to go right back into the situation, and you can keep calling again. And why as women, we don't necessarily view ourselves as more than what we should.
Amen.
That could just all say where your mind is at. You know what I mean? What are you feeding yourself? Or no different from what you're saying, Sarah. Like, we're talking about Black Lives Matter because that's media. That's what's on right now. Nobody's giving these statistics. You know what I mean? Nobody's saying, my daughter got beat last night too, but you know what I mean? Like, we don't talk about it, and I don't know if there's a station or a media point that says we need to put this out, but it's not to say that the domestic violence doesn't matter. It's to say that we tend to gravitate to what we can talk about the most, because that happens in somebody's house. And so some people are raised with what goes on in my house is my house. And so that could be a problem.
Well, just like I can't say that I know what it feels like to be a black woman in this world, I can't say that I know what it's like to be have ever been in an abusive relationship, but I've read things and I've known women that have, and for whatever reason there's always, and it's not right, there's always this shame that is carried with being in an abusive relationship. And it's, if we could just shine a light on that, and like you were talking about, if you don't know your own self-worth, it always seems like it comes down to, what did I do to deserve this? Why am I not good enough? But if we could tear away the shame that is involved and shine that light on their worth and the women of God that they are, and for it to not be taboo, because like you said, people are very like, that happens in my house. I don't want anyone to know that my husband or my boyfriend or my father or whoever they're with is abusing me like that, because it's surely embarrassing. But
Yeah, I guess I'm going to talk to you guys now. My issue is every 15 minutes, right? I mean, I just don't understand how it's not addressed. I mean, it can't be, if it's that. I mean, 9 million people, ladies, a year. I'm talking about, and unfortunately in Florida, we've doubled. We're 108 cases reported in the last 6 months, which is a lot. And I'm saying, how aren't we talking about? I mean, even the ladies in media. I'm just asking. Is it as a church now? That means 1 out of 3 ladies in our churches have experienced some level of domestic violence. 1 out of the 3 ladies. Like it's happened, and I'm saying, how do we? That's an issue that to me, help me with a world that doesn't address things. I feel like the church is always I feel like we're always the one stuck with the responsibility of it. I don't care where the hurting is. When that police officer gets hurt, wherever his wife is, she still needs Christ. Kobe died, his wife needs Jesus. I feel like we're going to be stuck with the responsibility of it. And I'm saying, man, that many ladies hurting. And I feel like I need to just take a year off and preach on hurting women. That's how drastic it is to me. Yeah. And to feel like as a woman, and that's all I was asking you guys, not necessarily to hear your view on how to fix it, but how does it feel as a woman to know we live in a really masculine world that can overlook? I mean, I'm guilty. My wife feels a certain way, and I'm like, hey, I didn't see. I'm guilty of it. But I'm saying, for abuse, that's different. I feel like that's a little different. And as a church, I don't know. Y'all help me. Y'all understand what I'm saying? When I'm talking about elephants in the room, and obviously we're talking about the race issue.
But I think it's just like,
you know what I mean?
With black and white, like it's we've grown numb to just know that we're less
that women
than,
get abused.
like it happens, if you will. Like men are just, you just don't over talk a man. Like you just don't do certain stuff. Like it's a man's world. And as women, I think with the greatest strong woman that we have, we still understand it's a man's world.
Y'all believe that man's world thing? Like y'all believe it's kind of.
I mean, I'm not
saying that it's like that for you. I'm just saying, do you feel there's this sense of this world is real?
I probably have a little different perspective on that. I mean, obviously, I do think that men in general have been the leaders and have often had the roles and authoritarian roles, but I think, that there has to be a leader, and the way God set up the world was man and woman. And so I just think there's when we talk about systemic, if I can use that word, I think there's this systemic sin issue that we always want to dance around, and we can't. I mean, because it always comes back to that, at least for me. I don't know how to talk about things without going back to that systemic issue of sin. And so when sin entered, when Eve took the fruit, she was deceived, but Adam got right on board. He did not step in. He should have stepped in as the head of their relationship, and he didn't. And so from then on, everything's messed up. Everything is messed up, whether it's a man-woman issue and that trying to control each other. I mean, that's my issue. I want to control him. I want to be the head, I think. And then when I'm actually put in that position, I'm like, no, never mind. I don't want to make the decision.
I want to go back to your point. You just said a man, and I want Steve to get in on this. When you said the man didn't step in, that's my issue. I'm saying, hey, granted, honestly, truthfully, we live in a masculine world where a lot of women are just now getting in certain positions that only men have. You know what I mean? But what I'm talking to is that responsibility. I think even for men, maybe just men in church. I mean, we're seeing more women do more things in church, but for the longest, it's always been this. And so now I'm talking about physical abuse that we're talking about domestically, but I think there's a lot of abuse. Church abuse. You can't say this. She's the one. So I'm not talking about leadership as the way God set it up as a husband and wife. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that's something I feel like hasn't been addressed. You know what I mean? I just feel like there's a bunch of women that have a lot to offer, but I think to disregard, if I'm going to talk about elephants in the room, I got to talk about there's another abuse going on. Physically, clearly. Domestic violence, but I'm just asking, and y'all, is it something that everybody feels like, just something that women? I don't know if that's. I feel the same. The reason I'm saying that because I feel the same way if someone got hurt. I feel like Proverbs, where the Bible tells us to speak up for those that are less fortunate. I'm saying, man, are we living in a time where a woman's pain is not a voice? Right. You know what I mean? Like, to me, everybody talks about the George Floyd and Ahmaud. I'm saying they had mothers. You know what I mean? And I heard every mother's pain, the worst pain ever is said, your child died before you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had women, I think about my own mother. I was raised by a single mother. So I think about, I don't know if y'all hear what I'm saying. I'm not trying to change the narrative, but I'm saying, man, this is drastic. And that's the elephant in the room. I don't know if the country is going to ever address. You know what I mean? If it's good or more things. So go ahead. Y'all got to stop. Tell me what you know.
Well,
And we just talking. So
can we
no-
talk about some hard issues?
Yeah, I mean, everything seems like it's going back to that. If that's the answer today,
No,
you
he said
get tired of
hard.
listening.
Hard, I think.
Hard. Oh, I thought
Yeah.
Yeah, you're giving us all the easy ones.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Man, Dozier, is that not like a 2-hour? It really is.
It might be. It might be. And I don't want to make it like. I want to get back to the.
I think one of the things I've seen growing up, I think it's gotten better, at least in our church. We really think about targeting men, and I'm not saying that's for every church. I think should be, but you know, our men's ministries has been strong, and I think that's why our church has been better. The problem with women's issues is men, not in the sense that men are committing the act. Obviously, that's the problem, but the root of the problem is good men should be calling out and training and holding men accountable, and that's not happening. And it does not happen in the church often enough. Just in sheer discipleship. If you think about it, one of the things, mentoring, accountability,
Right.
there's just not enough of one-on-one, hey Dozier, how you treating your wife?
Right.
In your face, to the point that our relationship is strong enough that you're not gonna skirt the issue.
Right.
You're gonna go, dude, I've been having frustrations and thoughts. And until we get to that as a church, number one, I think it's gonna continue. And then we model it for those in our community, and it's contagious. But on a societal, systemic side of things, the one thing I get concerned about is, and I'm very careful not to get into the legalistic zone because I grew up in that legalistic era.
Right.
But how can you idolize and celebrate people in the porn star industry,
Right.
which we do now
Right.
in culture? It's now cool to be in porn that addicts millions of men that go home and expect something they don't get because they watch Fantasy World, and then because of their frustrations, now what's going to happen?
Right.
It's a proven multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah, that's
Our,
crazy.
and our boys have access to it.
Nope. That's the whole. Don't scare me.
You know?
I got it. What do you got, man?
I want to piggyback on what she said. I don't think we have an abuse issue. I don't think we have a racism
Sin issue.
It is a sin issue, and for us to, we can sit here all day and start and address issues that are happening and injustices that are happening. We can do it all day, and first of all, I don't think on this side of eternity anything's ever going to be fixed. We live in a fallen and imperfect world, and I think the best that we can do is, first of all, I think the church has to lead the way.
Amen.
And we've got to be the leading voice, and what you just talked about with men's ministry, and address these hot button issues. And I don't want to continue to try to manage between crises. We're in this cycle of an injustice happened, people riot, and then it becomes yesterday's news, and then time goes on until the next time it happens. Then it becomes a part of the next news cycle, and then people riot, and then they forget about it. And so what can we do to break the cycle? And I think it's why what we're discussing.
Right.
But at the end of the day, man, it's got to be the church
Gotta be church.
leading the way.
So you bring me to my last one. So, how do we create more equality? How do we fix it? How does the church, instead of following everyone and taking the whatever they do, we'll try to get on them. How do we initially make the step initially? Like somebody's got to initiate it. And the problem is we know that it has to be. Since we got systemic issues,
Yeah.
I feel like we have to create something that's systemic.
Yeah.
That's a system that we can affect more than just, because here's what happens. You guys are doing great. But what happens is we don't have a creative issue that can help the masses. The Bible tells us to go into the world. And so we love our communities. God placed us there. But I'm saying if there was a suggestion, if there are, how do we, in what ways are you thinking of how we create that real revival revolution that says, hey, this generation, even the hurting, even the abused can count on us with, with this. I mean, yes, we're going to pray. Yes, we're going to keep doing what we're already doing. I'm saying, man, if it's really a systemic issue, what systems? Maybe you guys are, maybe because you guys got black people in church. Maybe you've already started a system that says, hey, we're going to do this, or this is a thought, or I don't know, just, no answers. I'm just, you know what I mean?
So
anybody can.
I think the first step is what we're doing right here. Is we're sitting here, we're acknowledging it, and we're talking about it. That's step one. And this is like this whole George Floyd. This is probably the third time I've had a similar conversation since George Floyd. But prior to that, I've never touched this with a 10-foot pole because it's just too sensitive, and I'm too worried about saying the wrong thing. And so it's not anything that I ever wanted to touch. But now I'm here. And so it's different this time because I'm here. Because I've not been here. And like just the other day, I was on a Unity walk in downtown Tampa. And that's not anything that I would have previously done before. So if I'm doing it, that means there's other people doing it. And so that means, that's step one. And then but going on from step one, we have these conversations and we address the needs and it is going to take more conversations and more demonstrations and then people have certain issues that they're passionate about, and a lot of it are from their experiences. Who better to start a revolution in your community on the abuse of women than an abused woman that's come out of that, and so people are passionate about different things. There's sex trafficking and just all kinds of things. So we can sit here all day and talk about it. And so, but step one, man, is doing exactly what we're doing right now, and that's talking.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Ladies, come on, everybody, come on. Ladies are not talking. Ladies, you guys are texting and clicking and talking.
I think what he said is great, and that is one of the things that Anita in our church, for instance, she comes from an abusive background, so she's gone through extensive healing and counseling, and now she offers mending the wounded soul, and so that is just one step. But I think the other thing that we've talked about, I think it was GLS last year, Global Leadership Summit. We listened. I cannot remember the speaker's name, but she talked about, she was an African American woman, and she talked about there's a difference between being invited to the dance and being asked to dance. And I loved that analogy because you can invite people, you're in my church, you're in my world, but if you don't actually ask them to dance and like get up in your space and have be a leader in that walk of life, then you're really not going to get the integration, the understanding, the moving forward that we're looking for. And so
invited to dance.
Yes. And not just invite them to the dance, but ask them to dance. Ask them to dance. So.
And I think so. Like one of our 10 core values is diversity, and that is demonstrated by what our stage looks like. It's demonstrated by who's at our front door. I mean, I will literally walk around, and if there's too many white people or too many black people at the front door greeting people, we're going to shift that because we want to make a representation that we are a diverse people. Our stage is diverse, and and we don't just put people up there just for demographic purposes. We put the right people in the right place, but we're intentional, we're mindful about it, and that's where it starts until it becomes natural. And at some point, it's becoming natural for us. You've got to be intentional about it.
I like that answer. So one of the answers I'm hearing is make those conversations until the awkwardness starts feeling okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. What do you guys see?
There was a book
Courtney,
I
you
read.
guys are not talking. What's going on here? I'm sorry. You guys put you guys up. Let's put you guys up here. What's going on here?
I love this quote. Relationships are not just one thing God is up to, it's the only thing God is up to.
I like that.
And we can talk about systems, and it's very important, but at the core and the foundation of those systems being changed has to be relationships with people. Quick story, Pastor, we got to tell the story. 35 years ago, I moved to Florida, out of southern Alabama, total white church, total white culture, a lot of prejudice, a lot of racism. Wasn't even realizing it until I moved and started to get older, 12, 13 years old. I started teaching junior boys Sunday school assistant class. And one in that class was 2 young African-American men, one of which lives in Tampa now. His name's Corey. He's a dear friend. Those young men were raised by their grandfather, one of the grandmother, who I love. She's passed then. I became so close to those kids. They became dear friends of mine. They went into my Royal Ranger groups, kind of a scouting thing. Then they became in my youth ministry, kind of moved up with me. Those kids used to come over and stay at my house. I'd have them over, I'd go pick them up. And you know, what I know now is they were just 2 of many. They changed my life. Because I got to know human beings who happened to be darker skinned, better tan than I did, right? Us white people are always trying to be darker. What's up with that, you know? And here's the key, man. None of this is going to be solved. The systems are going to be faulty on some level because of sinfulness. But the way they get really adhered to good systems is to have relationships with people like we do, right? That where we're constantly having those conversations. You guys, I just applaud what you're doing and that intentionality. You said that earlier. We've got to be intentional to go out of our comfort zone to get to know people. Dr. Tony Evans issued a challenge that really hit me. He said, find another family who is different than you, different color than you. He said, don't stop there though. Have them over and then you together go serve someone who is in need. And I'm like, that is a secret sauce right there that solves our community problems. It creates relationships with our police and our lawmakers. And we begin to set forth that leadership. Really, the system is let the church lead so that people feel convicted, right? When they see that we're doing good in spite of the craziness that's going on. And then we begin to see laws and police and all these problems begin to change in our community because we as a church are setting the example of Jesus Christ before people. But ultimately, for me, it starts with deepening the relationships with people different than you so that we can see what God's answer is for them.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of 2 things I heard earlier. You mentioned white privilege and you mentioned ego. And it could be really easy for me and maybe people like myself with this skin color to say, I didn't do this.
Right.
I had no part in this. I'm not like them. And to disregard the hurt when you have, you know, there's a people that are saying, I am hurting, but I didn't have anything to do with that. But as Christ followers, it is our responsibility, whether we hurt someone or not, to recognize the hurting and to go and to minister to that and to stop the bleeding. And we have to rise up as Christians and the church and join in that movement to say, I know it wasn't me. You know, it was way back before me, or I don't act this way, but I'm sorry that you're hurting. I'm sorry that you don't have the privileges I do. And to recognize that hurt in other people and put our ego aside.
I mean, to piggyback off what you're saying is, I like it because if there is a people that is bleeding, like as a church, we have to be Band-Aid. And if we're going to be the Band-Aid, then that's in every aspect. Like you said, to be intentional, like to talk about it, to maybe make those groups in the churches. Because if I can come here to church, if I can come here and feel it's my space of happiness or safety, then that's when we're making changes. We can talk about it, but when some people just don't feel like they have a safe place, period. So as Christians, if it's about the spirit and knocking the spirit out and killing that spirit of evil, then we have to be intentional as a church to every day think about, let's make it.
All right, check this out. Now I got a tough question. Last one, we're done. Hey, online people, I'm not going to be able to address this. Hopefully they'll come back and give us another time. You guys are flooding with comments, and I'm sure maybe the question I'm not going to look at. But here's my point. What do you do about the people that are not like you? I'm just taking the elephant out of the room. They're a white church. We're good over here, and we got a good little system. It's working. We just built another, campus. We just breaking out of this coronavirus stuff. We're starting to come back to worship, and Now you guys are talking about all this intentional, and I'm not in the room. So I want you to help any other white pastor, friend. What are you going to tell them to do? Because it's awkward. It's awkward. It's awkward. And everybody says, I want to help. I want to do something. So, on behalf of all of the white pastors that don't know what to do, here comes Pastor Steve and Sarah, Ryan and Courtney. What do? Help them. Because you guys, is it a gift? Is it just you're born with that kind of heart? Or, you know what I'm saying? I'm asking. Because is it a heart issue? And you can't change it? Or, hey guys, start this. Because everybody's doing it. No, dudes, I want to help. I want to help. Right? Well, you're at your church. You can do something, because they're not here. You know what I mean? Like, nobody? Besides pray. Let's clear that. Pray, seek God. I'm saying, give them a step. Give everybody a black step. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I think that's a hard question, man. And I don't pretend to have an answer for
That's
it.
cool. I want you to try.
I think some of the obvious things are have conversations with cross-cultural ministries. If you're primarily one culture, I would even encourage pastors that are primarily in a black church or a Latino church or an Asian church, at least have the conversation.
Yeah. Talk to a black.
Just create the conversation and ask God what He wants. This sounds like such a bad preacher answer.
Nah, but it's okay.
We
can't get away from it.
Open to. You guys may agree with me, but I think church is going to look distinctly different on the other side of this coronavirus.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to look like. We're having these conversations. It is the question that is got me so in analysis, but I do believe God is doing something different, and I think it's going to be better. Michael, you said it, man. I think something on the other side of this is going to make us more impactful.
Right.
And for us, we're doing focus group conversations, just inviting people to the dance floor to just say, how do you think we're doing? And I think doing that in your community, right? Whatever your community looks like, go and seek out people who don't come to your church and just ask them, how could we be a better church for your family, right? And you might, that's a dangerous question to ask.
I think Sarah did, right? Who started talking about prayer and stuff and want to go to Sarah? Go ahead. No, you talk now. Go ahead. I just talked about something that Tina told me about. You were doing some reaching out to pray with different ladies or something.
I agree with, I think what Pastor Ryan already said about intentionality.
Yes.
I think that is
That's
true
it.
whether you're a pastor or whether you're just a Christian. I'm speaking specifically to believers, I think, because we have a different standard. If you're non-believer, you don't have the same standard. But if you're a Christ follower, you have made Him Lord. You are a servant and a slave to Him. Think about that. I am a servant and a slave to Jesus Christ, who also took off the towel and washed the feet of even Judas, who was about to betray Him. I mean, when we really think about what Jesus did and how He lived, and that is who we are called to be, in 2 Corinthians 5 it says that we have been reconciled to God, and now it's our job to help reconcile man to God and man to man. So if we're not involved in that, then we are not following the Great Commission. And so we need to check our hearts. We need to say, Lord, break me for what breaks your heart. Yeah. And it may sound spiritual, and I don't care. That's what the Word says, and I stand on that. That's what He's my ultimate authority and my filter. So if our hearts are not broken for the separation of man to God, that each soul that you see is an eternal being, and they are going to end up in heaven or hell, and you have a responsibility in that. Man, I take that really seriously. And so I just think we have to have that heart to
be more responsible.
To recognize people as spirit, soul that live on for eternity in heaven or hell. That changes the whole game for me. So I just think we gotta ask God to break our heart for what breaks His, and not try to change the whole world.
Right.
Change what's right in front of you. Right. Change one heart, one person in front of you. That's what you're responsible for, and then move out as God gives you more.
But if everybody does that, if everybody does that, we're good.
Yeah. So.
And one thing I think those are important for us would be, it goes back to something God taught me a couple years ago about our comfort zone. and I've heard pastors say this before, if we're not uncomfortable, we're not growing.
Right.
And I love this phrase, life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
Right.
Really. And if we look at it with excitement and with, here's another challenge that Jesus is going to lead us, let's go and have these conversations, get out of our comfort zone. Man, that's where revolution in a God way begins. And I'm really excited that that can happen for all of us going forward.
I think exposure is critical. You talk about exposing ourselves to other cultures that we haven't had, but for a pastor of a single culture church, strike while the iron's hot. You've
Right.
had no greater opportunity
It's
to
the time.
talk about it than right now,
Yeah,
right.
because this is the most anybody has ever talked about it, and so this is your prime opportunity. I mean, I'm going to speak on behalf of white people I've been around. We don't like talking about it because we don't want to stir up stink,
Right.
And so we've always been hesitant to talk about it because you don't want to offend people and stir up something where there is nothing in that respect. But man, this is the time to do it and be bold and be brave. And as hard as it is and uncomfortable as it is, start a conversation.
Amen.
Yeah, I would just say ditto to what you said. I mean, that was good. And I love what you said about the prayer. God, break our hearts for what breaks your hearts. You know,
Right.
and if we don't feel that way for those around us and what we're witnessing around us, and I'll say us, because I don't want to point fingers, we need to check our hearts as a church, as Christians. If that is not breaking our hearts, and we're not just filled with hurt and despair for what we're witnessing, we need to check. We need to check ourselves.
I mean, I agree totally with Sarah. Like, I mean, if we can get to a place where we understand there's no white section, no black section, or no Latino section in heaven, then that's half the battle. Like, we gotta. And I hate to say the same thing, but it's like it's a heart thing. Like, we gotta get to that place where we understand why we're here. As Christians, it's just not a coincidence that Christ chose us, and
That's
we
good.
have a responsibility.
And
Listen, I'm going. Good talk.
I used the word coincidence because a minute ago I was thinking that it's not coincidental that all this fell where Corona at all at the same time. Coming on the other side of this, we were just talking about what is normal even going to look like for church on the other side.
Right.
And it's
Right.
not coincidental that this has all happened now, and we are living in this time now for a purpose.
Right.
I love what you said.
And I think God knew it, man. You know, to act like to leave him out, the orchestrating. You know,
Right.
God is just the best orchestra,
Right.
and knew that certain things was going to push. And that's the thing I want to commend you guys for this as we leave. I'm so grateful to God that my relationship wasn't built because of what happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think the awkwardness is we're asking people, it seems like the answer today has been the heart issue, right? Now you're asking someone to change their heart because. And really, if it comes down to it, you know, this person's got to seek God before now. You know, you got heart issues to try to help someone else, and, you know, you've been, and, you know, and whether you're a pastor or whatever you are or not, as Christians sometimes, there was a scripture one time, and God said, hey, you know, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. I got issues in my life that I'm strong over here, but I don't want to take that chance. So I want to thank you guys for just coming to just talk. And I hate that we have to do it in this level, but I pray that this look that you guys may be seeing online could ultimately be what you can start in your own place, because
Amen. That's good.
because we're responding. And the reason why I want to do this, and I want to close with this, our world is responding to something that was caught on video. And so I wanted this look because I don't think there's many videos like this. I think if everyone could look at their phone and know that once a week you would see this, that's half the battle.
Yeah.
Videos don't look like this. Whether it's your live Sunday, and that's what's so good. And you know, my last question about coronavirus, I don't want to get into it because we've been here forever. But my point is, it is going to be different. And I just want to be a part of the difference. So anyways, hey, tell everybody where they find you, give you closing remarks. We're going to start over here this time. just whatever, you know,
Man, yeah, this
where to find you, what's up with you, what's your, you know, your MySpace and or whatever, I don't know.
MySpace.
No, I'm joking.
So my name is Pastor Ryan Sharp, pastor of River Hills Church, and it's been such an honor to be here today. You can find us on Facebook. You can find on Facebook at facebook.com/River Hills Church of God. Find us on Instagram, also our YouTube channel there. Hope to take a look.
Courtney Sharp, it's an honor to be here today. I love you guys. I was nervous about coming, but excited about coming, and it's been really good to sit down and talk to you guys. I love you.
You guys,
I'm saying my name.
whatever you want to say. You got any closing remarks? You want to, you know, it doesn't matter.
I
You already preached the sermon.
I love Jesus, and I am so excited about, you know, the body of Christ coming together. I think, Brian, you said it, that this is the time. We have been called for such a time as this. And even though I sometimes get fearful, when I start getting together with brothers and sisters and talking
Oh, you
about,
preached today. I didn't hear no
Well,
sermon.
no, when we start talking
If you
about
want to get any offering, her name is Sarah. Send the offering, Sarah.
no, but when we start talking about God's word and who He is, and that there are no like challenges in heaven. There's no like obstacles in heaven. There are only opportunities. And so that's what I see before us, is we have this awesome opportunity that God has given us, and He's called us to be part of it. He's called you, if you're watching and you are a Christ follower, you are here for such a time as this. And you are a kingdom purpose-filled person. And I hope that you jump on board with what He wants to do in your life. So.
And Steve Glover, our church at Deep Creek Community Church, most people know it as DC3. Look us up at dc3.tv. But the most important thing for me to say today is thank you to Tina, the most important one, and Brian for having us and having this conversation. It takes a lot of courage to do this stuff, Brian, as you know, and thank you, Pastor, for doing this. Thank you to all the people, the tech crew, and everybody that's behind the scenes doing this. We couldn't do it without them, brother.
Right, not at all, not at all.
Stuff. And I love all of our volunteers and people at DC3, but more importantly, I am so thankful for the relationship with you guys, a new relationship with fellow ministers. My life verse, John 13:35, right? By this, all men will know, all women will know that we are true followers of Christ by the love we have for each other. And my prayer is that I know I love these guys. I know they love me. We don't agree on everything, as most humans don't, but love covers a multitude of sins. And what we need is not just love in the warm and fuzzy, but we need the genuine love of Jesus Christ that changes and transforms my sinful heart. And that's my prayer for every person watching today, man, is that you know and experience the love of Jesus like you've never felt it in your life. So thank you guys. Thank you for the opportunity today.
Wife of mine, you gotta say something. Tell the people who you are. Tell them where to find you. Or Facebook, whatever. Tell them, you know.
Sing us out.
Sing us there.
Give us a song. Where's the mic? Sing us in. Well, just say.
Steve did that to me the other day. We've been doing live Facebook prayer times, and he's like, Sarah, why don't you sing that song? I was like, oh my gosh. I did, though. I did it.
Well, I'm Altina Dozier. We're here at the place here in Tampa. We ask that you log in to theplacetv.com for our own Pastor Dozier.
Y'all said, I told her to talk about her. So she tried to throw that to the church.
Yeah, I don't go to Altina Dozier on Facebook. And otherwise, just to y'all, I thank you, both of y'all, for taking the opportunity to not feel, to overlet fear take the
Hopefully it wasn't so bad.
the love out of it, because it is all in love, and it's just the things that needed to be said, things that needed to happen, and it started here, and I'm just grateful for y'all for starting here.
So, me too. Y'all know my favorite scripture in James 2. Faith without works is dead. I just think it's time to get to work. I'm a work guy. I just, you know, I don't want to be in a meeting 3 hours. I'd rather work for 2 and then meet for 1. You know what I mean? I think we got work to do. And instead of thinking about it, I think for me, the biggest thing is, as Christians, we have faith. You got to use it. And if you can see it, it ain't faith. If you can see it perfectly, if they could see it, if you could saw, you guys set online probably want to know if I was going to do this, but if you could see the end of it, it's not faith.
That's right.
Faith is the stuff we can't see. So I didn't have a plan. So if I didn't answer your little question, I'm sorry. But I just stepped out on faith. And I don't know who's gonna feel what, and I'm sorry, but that's the life I want to live. I want to be more significant than safe, and I think you guys help us do that today. I think there's a whole lot of more elephants we gotta, get out of the house, but they're at least out of the room.
Yeah.
I thank y'all for that today. And does anybody want to pray us out? That's old school, right? Nobody want to pray? I can pray. It don't matter. Come on, one of you guys, come on.
Come on, man. Go ahead.
Father, we're so grateful for the time that we've had to share together to
Yes, Lord.
discuss issues that are close to your heart. And Lord, because they're close to your heart, they're close to our hearts as well. And Father, we pray that something that has been said today would just penetrate and take root in our heart where we don't just cut off what's visible, but we allow you to get into the deep recesses of our hearts, and we become transformed by you. So Father, I just pray blessings over this community. I pray blessings over these churches, that Lord, you would help us to do the work that you called us to do, that we would lead the way you called us to lead, and that real change would happen, change that only comes from you. And God, it's not a thing that we just want to hide in our prayer closets, but God, help us to have divine insight and direction to how to begin to address these issues one by one as they're presented to us, God, because more than anything, we need you. And Lord, I thank you for this time. I pray blessings over everybody watching, that you would touch them in their homes, wherever they're at, anything they put their hands to. God, just keep us all in your perfect will and perfect peace. And we give you praise and thanks for it all. In Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Hey, thank y'all guys again. Listen, those little bastards, we can get it to them after. It's not, they don't need to see that. Not really. Hey, listen, it doesn't matter. Hey, catch us the next time on Kicking the Elephant Out the Room. I don't know what's going to be next. I don't know what next conversation is going to happen, but I know we got to have more of them. I thank God for each and every one of you. Share this to somebody that you don't think wants to see it. Don't share it to the person that wants to see it. Send it to someone and make them watch it. Record it. And whatever. All right. See you later.